Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of the Future Proof Podcast. I'm your host, Brent Muller. I'm excited to be joined today by Andrew Ortega-Verdaguer. And it's from IntelVasc. I want to make sure I got it right because this is a really exciting product and I really want to talk to you, Andrew, about this. But before we jump in there, let's talk about your journey up to starting this company and and then we'll get into your vision for it.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's that story. It's quite fascinating because I'm a biologist, but I always wanted to be a surgeon. I happened to become a molecular biologist, but still surgery was deep in my heart. Right after I finalized my studies, I started working in large corporations, and I had the opportunity to jump into vascular surgery, but in the manufacturing side. And this gave me the opportunity to attend and support over 200 surgeries during my career. So I got a quite deep understanding of what to become a surgeon is like. And I was lucky enough to be all over the world in over 40 countries, working with different surgeons in all sort of coronary, aortic, peripheral stroke. I've seen a large growth of surgeries, and I finally realized that most of them, they are operating on emergency basis. Surgeons run when you have a heart attack or a stroke, or when they want to avoid an amputation or an ischemia, right? So I realized, I said, wouldn't it be amazing that we know before a vascular event is going to happen? Wouldn't we shift surgeries from a reactive to a proactive?
Proactive, right.
Yes, exactly. So that was a little bit the beginning of the story, and everything also exploded in me when my best friend, very young, with 3 kids, died from a stroke.
From a stroke, wow.
Yeah, in a stroke. I was working at Penumbra back then. Penumbra is it's a company based in Alameda in the Bay Area in California.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually were the first ones to propose mechanical thrombectomy. So basically a tube, a catheter going from the groin in the leg up to the brain, turn on the aspiration vacuum and remove the clots out of the brain. And this was a way much more proactive way to treat strokes that back then that was just administering a drug and just let's hope for the best.
Right.
So they inspired me a big deal. But the problem is when in 2020 during the pandemic, my best friend died very young from precisely the condition that Penumbra was worldwide recognized to making their device the gold standard. So that hit me quite strongly.
Yes,
And
I can imagine.
it was the ultimate, let's say, push that I needed to try to change medicine and surgery forever, turning it from reactive to proactive.
So talk us through, right? So that happens, and like you had this idea because you had a front row seat to over 200 plus surgeries, right? And you're seeing the issues. So how did the idea for IntelVasc come about? Is this something you had been thinking about, or?
Yes, I was thinking about it often because basically you should know. So the more information you have, basically an ischemia or a heart attack or a stroke come because coronaries get blocked by a thrombus or the brain or the leg. So the more information you have as a surgeon before to conduct the surgery about how old is this clot, the better the clinical outcomes are going to be, because you use one technique or another based on how old is this clot, because the older it is, the stronger it is and harder it is to remove. So oftentimes the problems that we found is not that our devices don't work well, but when the doctors went to this vessel and tried to remove the clot, sometimes was unsuccessful because the doctors couldn't know how long has this clot been there in the vessel. So I was thinking, oh my God, we should know that. That's pretty basic information that doctors should have access to, but there is no way to have it. So I was starting to think about it, but I'm not an engineer, so I have zero background on engineering or creating something. I said, couldn't it be possible to make a sensor that detects or tracks these vessels that we know that are already sick and
Right.
tells us when the vessel is shutting down and from when? Then the surgeries would be almost always successful. And
Right.
that was the inception. And when I decided to drop off, I moved to the Bay Area. I'm from Spain. I spent the last 8 years living in the UK. But to do the company, I wanted to do it in the Bay Area for many reasons. So
Yeah, obvious reasons. Yeah, totally get it. Yeah, there's the
yes,
talent there, the thought leadership there for this kind of thing. Yeah.
exactly. So I took a leap of faith, completely, with just this idea in my mind. No team, I didn't know any engineer, I didn't know anybody in the Bay Area in the entrepreneurial uh,
Yeah.
space. So one of the things I did is to apply to the best program in the world in entrepreneurship, which is the Ignite program at Stanford University. And fingers crossed that they would accept me. They did, and I graduated. And this definitely gave me a huge knowledge because I come from corporate. So I didn't
Right.
know anything about entrepreneurship, anything about IP or fundraising or how to build a team. I mean, I built teams before and executive positions in corporate, but that's different, right? Because you have
Yeah.
to one man for all. So this was great. I learned a lot and I created a lot of connections, network during my time living in the Bay Area at Stanford. And I loved it. And we stayed there with my wife in Palo Alto and decided to fund a company there. And I started to finding the co-founders. That was really tough because I started, let's try to find the co-founders in the academia, a
Right.
PhD, postdocs, professors, whatever. This didn't work out. And then I end up trying to find companies that did, because a sensor that tracks the blood to anticipate occlusions, that doesn't exist. Nobody did it. So
Right.
you have to find things or companies that try to do something relatively similar of what you believe that is going to be your device. But back then I didn't even know which device I had to do.
Right.
That was
Right.
the engineers who had to tell me. So I started looking for engineers, working in other companies and interviewing them, tell me, how would you solve this problem and give me a proposal. And if I like it, well, you will become my co-founder if everything checks out. But also the proposals came to me. I didn't understand anything either
Yeah.
because I don't have engineering background.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, you're speaking a different language, right?
Absolutely. It was this year was early 2023 when everything of OpenAI exploded. Started
Hmm.
using AI to ask engineering questions. Does that make sense? This would be a good idea. If you want to
Yeah.
solve this problem, would you approach it this way? That was good. And also the fact that I reviewed 40 projects that made me learn as well,
Yeah.
self-educating myself. And finally, yeah, I created an amazing team. Now we are 7 people with 5 engineers, 2 doctors, and myself.
Wow.
And yeah, we end up creating the world's first sensor that is going to be minimally invasive that can track with ultrasound the flow velocity. And if the flow velocity changes dramatically, that means that something is going on in the vicinity of this target vessel. Yep, that
So
more or
walk me through how this works. So is this something that's embedded in the patient, or is it something that is a test that the doctor does in the office? Like how does it work?
Yes, actually, I have it here. I'm going to show you. It's a sensor that goes subcutaneous. It's very similar to loop recorders. Loop recorders are sensors that go under the skin. Surgeons, they
Hmm.
squeeze it under the skin in the chest of the patient to track heart arrhythmias. And that's how we had the idea of the hardware. But in our case, it's going to be placed near the target vessel we want to track. In our case, we are going to start with peripheral arterial disease, which is a condition very severe. And this is the sensor that would go under the skin, near the upper leg,
Okay.
near the femoral artery. And we are going to, by tracking the femoral artery, we are able to track 20 centimeters of distance from the sensor's position to know where a blockage occurs for peripheral arterial disease, which is basically a chronic condition affecting over 9 million Americans and accounts for $20 billion of expenditure every year. We
Wow.
started with this indication for several technical and physiologic and also FDA focus reasons. But this technology has the potential to go anywhere in the body that is necessary to track the vascular health. And that's very common today, that if you have the high blood pressure, you have a blood pressure measurement machine at home.
Yeah.
And you do it periodically. The doctor asks you to, but nobody has, because the technology doesn't exist. Nobody will tell you, check your flow velocity on this vessel.
Right. Nobody will do that. Right.
So we are going to be the first company, if we are successful, to do that. And I think that this will completely disrupt the medicine as we know it in terms of cardiovascular care, because most of the deadly conditions come because of a poor vascular blood flow in
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's so many things, right? Between a heart attack, stroke, like you said, cardiovascular disease. There's just so many. High blood pressure. What do they call it? The silent killer, right? Because right, over time it affects everything. But if you just think about inflammation in general, right? All of that can be probably proactively dealt with if they knew where the trouble spots were and how to treat them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So tell us, Andrew, tell us where you're at today, right? Has this been all tested? Are you, obviously you have a team that's developed it. You have it there. Are doctors testing this? Do you have to go through FDA approval, or, what's the next step?
Yes. So this device certainly is a class 2 device per the FDA classification. Therefore, you need clinical trials demonstrating its safety and efficacy. So yes, now we are still in the R&D process. We have demonstrated that this technology would work in cadavers, that we have externally reperfused blood flow to the cadaver to monitor it. We tested it and with very promising results, but we still have we have gone a long way, but still have things to do. We have to further develop the transducer to make it with higher sensitivity, more optimized, and keep testing it. So yeah, we are going to do animals and first in humans, and then we are going to do a pivotal trial that can be between 80, 100 patients during a year to prove its safety and efficacy before to get the approval. But then once we have that, we are going to be the first company doing it, even though there are like 3 or 4 other companies. They try to achieve the same goal, because basically it's not something that just come out from my experience. The clinical guidelines have been updated as highly desirable and necessary, the remote monitoring for these high risk patients with certain cardiovascular conditions. So the medical community is already demanding it. And the FDA, it's giving breakthrough designation programs to companies who try to provide solutions that improve the clinical outcomes of critical limb ischemia patients, which is basically the worst variants of peripheral arterial disease, the most sick patients. So everything is converging into the necessity of remote monitoring for these kind of patients. And it's only possible because of breakthroughs in technology of ultrasound in these last years, and also AI. And these two now combined is what it makes make it possible, because so far follow-up of these patients was only possible in the hospital setting.
That's awesome. So as you look out, right, because I got some cool follow-up questions, I think, that I think your insights are going to be great on. But how long do you think that'll take to get you through FDA approval?
So we expect it's not necessarily very complex device to get approval. The development, because it's a first in class, it's way much more challenging. But to get the pivotal trial for approval, it might be 1 year. And then the approval per se can take between 6 and 12 months as well.
So you're 1 to 2 years away from this hitting the market.
Yes.
Yeah.
Plus, we're expecting to hit the market in 2028, because we still have work to do in R&D.
Got it.
But yeah, a device with such a revolution that would create such a revolution in medical space, and to have it by 2028, that would be a huge achievement in terms of timing.
So this is phenomenal. I love it. So many people need this. It can't get here fast enough, right? So tell me about how this is obviously a shift in the industry, right? Where we're trying to create devices and solutions for the medical community to change from reactive to proactive. Do you see this in other areas? Are you collaborating with other, I don't want to say inventors because it's really just people with great ideas to, like you said, disrupt the medical community? Are you seeing that in other areas as well?
Oh, yes. And again, AI, I mean, everything is AI these days, but at least in our field, what it creates an opportunity not only in software based companies that obviously they can do and they do a lot of good, but also companies that they would do hardware that the computing process power necessary to make it useful. Before AI was completely out of reach and now it's available. So it's powering many devices that could be already invented or thought of, but thanks to this huge computing process we have now, is opening new frontiers in medicine. I mean, for cancer, we are seeing a lot of startups trying to provide proactive care in cancer. Also, well, AI, it's providing to robotics to become way much more precise and getting much broader range of indications for neuromodulation. I mean, you name it. There's many, almost every field now. It's being targeted to get proactive care. Even these very nice hubs where you get in and they scan you 360.
Yes.
They tell you everything. I mean,
Right.
this would be great, right? Tricorder, one of our scanners, one of our components of our device is this scanner that you activate it, and you is what the patient used to activate the sensor, right? So some people call it a tricorder from Star Trek, right?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Look, it's definitely got that little feel, right?
So yeah, you have all this technology that reminds the tricorder. If we can anticipate the conditions like cancers in stage 1 or 2 before they become 3 or 4, mortality it's going to
Yeah.
decrease, and also the expenditure as well. So now it's the time, I think, that medicine can become way much more ahead of conditions, diseases, that is going to benefit largely the patients, but also decrease healthcare expenditure, making our
Right. It's got to
public
bring
health
costs down.
more
Yeah,
affordable.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me your vision about how AI and data, right, especially, will come into play and make this better. I mean, I can already see it, but like, what do you see?
So, well, if you talk about our device precisely, for instance, our sensor without machine learning or AI wouldn't be able to detect which vessel it's targeting, because you are going to place it in one particular space of the leg, but there are several vessels. So unless you have
Right.
a high computing power to discern which vessel you are targeting, you are pointing at, and you are analyzing, that wouldn't be effective or possible, right? That's one thing. But the second thing, you have a pool of data now. We have ever
That's
recorded.
where I was going. That was where my brain went, right? Yeah.
Exactly. You have ever recorded the data of the vascular health. All patients go to the hospital, you do a vascular, an echo duplex in the hospital, but nobody has these records, this data stored to make, projections. Now we are going to be the first company with all this vascular data from patients. We are going to be able to tell eventually, look, if you are this gender, this age, this body mass index, and the doctor puts you in a stent in this vessel, you have 20% of chances of reocclusion of this stent in 6 months, for instance.
Right.
So the follow-up will be personalized. Maybe the therapy will be personalized as well. So it's giving you projections of how it's going to be the clinical outcomes in this amount of time. Problem
Yeah.
is the industry and also the healthcare providers still are not well fit to acquire this data or information insights, because hospitals say, well, what do I do? Yes, you tell me this stent is going to occlude in 6 months. It has 20% of chance of occluding in 6 months. Is it high? Is it low? Well, how should I change the protocol in the hospital to react? So just giving
Right.
data, it's not enough. We
Right.
also, companies and working together with medical societies, healthcare providers, we have all together come up with a protocol for the insights that we give. Otherwise, the hospital are completely lost. Thank you for the information, but I don't know
Right,
what.
but I don't know what to do with it. Right, exactly, exactly. So it's got to be more prescriptive and give them a plan. But what you can see where it could lead, though, if it's done right. Not only does it allow the doctor to give that particular patient the best solution based on that data. But they're able to now pull from a pool of similar patients to see what worked and what treatment. And the treatment to me then gets so personalized that the chances of success are way higher. And this is what AI is, the great part of what it can do. But it doesn't work without devices like you're creating. And you're right. So that's where they go hand in hand. I love this.
Exactly.
This is exciting. This is really exciting.
It's incredible. It's incredible because so far, I mean, these patients, they have a checkup once a year. With this data, that's not a lot you can do. But if you have these scannings every day or once a week, then the volume of data, that makes it meaningful. And the progression that you can track, it makes it beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
usually when people think, they're thinking about that one case for themselves. Oh, that'd be great to have all this data on myself. But when you start to put it across pools and dozens and hundreds and thousands of other patients, you realize, wow, how much quicker we could get to the correct diagnosis, the correct treatment for that particular patient, because they're not all created equal, right? And like you said, it's not possible without that computing power.
That's right.
I love it. I love it. All right, Andrew, I told you this is unbelievably exciting. We're definitely going to have to touch base with you periodically, have you back to give you updates, because this is beyond groundbreaking. It's just, like we can't get to release in 2028 quick enough, right? I know you got to go through these things, but wow, can this be amazing? And everybody that's watching this podcast knows at least a handful of people that have one of these several conditions that this affects, right? There's no doubt about it. This is like the number one thing out there. I mean, heart disease alone is the number one killer in the U.S. People think it's cancer, but it's heart disease. And when you start to think cardiovascular, strokes, heart disease, and that's just scratching the surface, right? That's the big one. But so many other things due to inflammation affect the blood flow, and everything your device can really give us data on, which is beyond exciting. I don't even know how to say the right words here. So I love that you came on, and this is just a great story. So I told you I was going to ask you a couple cool questions right towards the end. And one is, what's something Andrew, the founder, has done with AI that you think other founders and CEOs would be interested in?
So now lately, I was quite overwhelmed with amount of work, like any founder. I said I need help with scheduling meetings or answering some emails that are quite bread and butter, but they take you a lot of time.
They take a lot of time, right, and thought cycles, right, and how you want to respond, right?
Exactly. I mean, also that on top of that, English is not my first language. I mean, even I've been using it a long time, but it's not my first language. So for me, it's even an extra time to answer certain things. And also, I miss something sometimes in the meetings. Oh, what was that? So I didn't want an AI tool like this that are a bunch that they are listening to the meetings and make a summary of the meeting and that's it. Because I said I'm not going to use that often enough. It's not like I'm missing so many things in the meetings, right?
Right.
I found this by chance on LinkedIn, Fixer.ai with a Y, Fixer. This is a tool that gets embedded in your email and also listens to every conversation that we have, but not to make a report or a summary, which they do as well, but they use the conversations to learn how I express myself, how I use the words. So every email that I receive, I have to answer. An answer is already created for me. And I can tell you that 80% of the emails, the answer is spot on, and I don't have to change almost anything.
That's fantastic.
That's amazing. And also, you and I, we can say, oh, yeah, it would be great to make the podcast. Let's have a meeting to chat and discuss about it tomorrow at 7 a.m. PT. The meeting calendar invite is going to be automatically created for me. I just have to click yes, and it's going to be sent out to you and to my calendar. So instead of thinking, oh, who could help me with this, which it's, it's very expensive to have someone else just for that, right? We are just or have an executive assistant for everything else. And at this stage of a startup, this technology, it's amazing. It saves me a lot of time. It's great for productivity and it's affordable. So yeah, it was a great help. I'm recommending to everyone lately.
Yeah. And how do you spell it again?
Fixer with a Y.
Oh, instead of an I, right? So FYX, like R or ER?
ER.
Yeah. Yeah. Fixer. No, it's great. And there's a lot of tools out there like that, but I love that you found the one that actually makes your life easier. And that's the whole point of AI, right? And especially if it writes like you, right? It looks at your emails and helps write like you, because that's where you keep the authenticity, right? You see some of your voice in it. And then if it gets you 80% of the way there, how much time did that save you? And then you start to extrapolate that over a month and then a year, how much more time you've saved to reinvest that knowledge and that time back into more important things.
100%. 100%.
Yes. I love it. I love that. These are the exact kind of things that we are sending out, because there's so many things out there. There's new tools coming out there, and it's so hard to keep up with it. You have to find a handful of things that work for you. And this is a great example. Andrew, I told you I was going to ask you one more question, right? And you're not in growth stage yet. So I'm going to ask it differently when we talk in a year or two, right? So today I want to know what would help accelerate, maybe shorten your timeline over the next 12 months. If I give you a magic wand, what would that be to help you do that?
Yes. Well, what this magic wand would help us a lot is mainly in two things. As any startup, we are resources constrained. So to have the right investors to help us complete the round, not only for the money, but also the right and knowledgeable investors who
Advisory, yeah. Absolutely.
Having our technology tested in humans, and we receive the same outcomes that we have already tested and received in cadavers. So we can have a safe and effective device in no time.
And believe me, no one's going to be rooting more than most people watching this podcast are going to be cheering you on, because we know what an impact in the medical community this will have positively.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So if anybody that wants to check out your technology, if they're investors or if they're in the VC or PE world, what's the best way to get in touch with you? We'll put all the links below when we go live.
Oh, yes. IntelVasc.com. If you want to learn more about us, you can find us on LinkedIn. We have a page as well. And if they want to just text us, Ortega at IntelVasc.com. That's my email, or info@IntelVasc.com. They can reach out to us, and happy to collaborate with everyone.
Absolutely. And after the podcast, I've got a couple resources to introduce you to. But yeah, I am excited, beyond excited. And just so you know, I'll be full disclosure here. My father's side of the family has a very bad genetic disposition to heart disease, and we've had a lot of bypass surgeries that have gone in my. And this device is one of those things that can help avoid that and get better treatment for all of my family on that side. So that's exciting, and it's only a couple of years away. So I will be watching you closely, Andrew. This is fantastic.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, and hey, this is why the Future Proof podcast was created, is to tell stories like this, the innovations, the technology, and how they come together with brilliant people like Andrew. Andrew, thank you for spending the time. That's it for this episode of Future Proof Podcast, where leaders like Andrew and technology come together to change the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.